Oh, good answer. Good answer.
Well, when you stand up there, it's built in.
You can test it if you want.
Oh, yes. Thank you for being my Good evening. I want to call this meeting to order. Thank you all for joining us on this newly scheduled special meeting of the Chandler City Council. Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Mayor Hartke,
Present.
Vice Mayor Ellis,
Here.
Councilmember Encinas,
Here.
Councilmember Poston,
Present?
Councilmember Orlando.
Here.
Councilmember Harris,
Here.
Councilmember Hawkins.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Council, we've got a couple items for discussion and action. There are a number of speaker cards, and I will go like we have done before in terms of us having an opportunity to, there'll be a presentation on these items, an opportunity to discuss, allowing speaker cards. I will ask our audience that please do not be redundant. You can say, I agree with such and such, rather than articulating the same thing. You will have up to 3 minutes, so if you choose to, you are welcome to do that. But just for the sake of the meeting, if you feel what you're saying is being covered, feel free to also say that as well. And before we get into these, I would like to read a couple things here. So, Council, as mayor, I do want us to address some important items for discussion tonight. This is to review and consider a path forward with potential amendments to our city charter in preparation for the charter election scheduled in November 2025 and beyond. The Chandler City Charter, originally adopted by voters in 1965, serves as the foundation of our city government. It is, in essence, Chandler's Constitution, a document that defines our structure, our powers of elected officials, and how we operate as local government. And like any foundational document, it must be regularly reviewed and thoughtfully updated to reflect the evolution, growth, and modern needs of our community. And over the past 6 decades, Chandler has grown from a small farming community that was beginning to urbanize into a dynamic, diverse, modern city of nearly 300,000 residents. I think we're 291 is the last I read this week. Our responsibilities have expanded, technology has advanced, and the expectations of our residents has certainly evolved over time. And yet, much of the charter is the same language when it was originally adopted. So it's to be expected that some of the language could be outdated or ambiguous due to modern circumstances. This is why it's vital that we, as a united, forward-looking council, take action to ensure our city charter continues to serve the needs of Chandler today, as well as for future generations. It's not about politics. It's not about political gain, rewriting history, or even rushing change. It's not a moment to assign blame for what's been outdated in the charter or for delays in addressing these matters. The current language of the charter is a product of its time, and we must approach this task with the spirit of accountability, not criticism. Our responsibility is not to dwell on the past, but ensure that we give our Chandler voters the opportunity to consider meaningful, well-vetted changes that enhance transparency, efficiency, and good governance. To that end, I'm calling tonight for the establishment of a city charter amendment resident advisory committee. We'll be voting on that as well. And this 9-member committee will consist of Chandler residents with diverse expectations and perspectives. Its role will be to conduct a comprehensive review of our city charter and recommend future changes that council may consider placing on a future ballot. This is not in conflict with the discussion tonight on another ballot suggestion to be placed on the November ballot. It complements that, not competes. And I've invited each of you, council, to recommend individuals and who are actively and positively engaged in our community. Consider those who reflect the diversity of Chandler's residents who bring professional expertise, civic involvement, and a shared commitment to our city's long-term success. And another language that I just referred to is to consider the proposed language for a charter amendment related to the term of future mayors and council members. This proposal deserves careful attention. It's why that it was delayed to have better attention and comments from last Monday or last week. And we're entrusted with ensuring the language is clean, fair, and ready for voter consideration. I'm confident that through constructive collaboration and responsible leadership, we will fulfill these tasks with integrity tonight. Let us also remember that any changes we consider will ultimately be decided by Chandler voters, not us. Anything that is requested to be placed on a ballot is voted on by Chandler voters. This body's responsibility tonight is to vote whether to establish a citizen charter review committee and to refer something to the ballot. If the Citizen Charter Review Committee makes suggestions, those too will be placed on a future ballot. That committee will neither, nor will council be making charter amendments, only to make recommendations to the ballot. Our role is to steward this process with integrity and ensure that what reaches the ballot reflects thoughtful input, community values, sound governance, and keeping Chandler out of the news as much as possible. So let's model this kind of respectful, forward-thinking governance that Chandler residents expect and deserve. And by working together, we can continue to honor our past, address our present, and prepare Chandler for a strong and responsive future. I want to thank you, Council, for your commitment to serving our city with wisdom and with care. And I want to thank our audience who is here because you care. You're interested in our city. You might not all have the same view, but none of us up here doubts that you are here because you're interested in the well-being of our city and the direction of its future. So with that, our first item is resolution number 5913, ordering and calling a special election for the submission of a proposed amendments to the city charter clarifying term limits for council members and mayor. I would like to turn it over to our city attorney for a viewing and an understanding that not only that we will share, but our audience. We will then discuss this and then take a listen to our speaker cards and then vote and then move on to number 2. City attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. Pleasure to be here tonight to talk to you about this. And thank you for excusing me from the last meeting on May 22nd, as I wanted to be there in person for my child's high school graduation. So I appreciate that. And I'm very proud that I have a Chandler High School graduate now going to ASU. So thank you. Very proud. So why we're here tonight is we do have an old charter. It is 60 years old. And some of the language has evolved and not always as clear as we would like it to be. And so I'm going to walk through kind of the history of why we're here and the path forward and the options available. So first of all, we want to clarify why the current language is vague and needs updating. We at the city attorney's office, our obligation is to give legal advice to the city through the city council and through the staff. It is not to advise candidates for office. Candidates need to obtain their own legal advice before they choose to submit and run for office. However, when inquiries are made, then we will follow up. So through that process, an inquiry was made, and we went and looked at the charter language as to term limits. And we found it to be confusing. And if anyone's been aware of what's been going on in the media, both in the print and in interviews, there are a lot of people with a lot of different opinions. Clearly, the language is ambiguous and confusing. So it benefits the city and its residents to have more clear language that lays out the term limits explicitly, so there's not that confusion and differing opinions. So we're going to talk about the process for making and adopting the charter amendment. And then, of course, ultimately, it's up to the mayor and council if they want to go forward and put this amendment on the election in November, and then ultimately for the voters to decide whether to approve the amendment or not. So the city charter is really the city's governing document. It's kind of like our local constitution is a good way to state it. It originally was approved by the voters, and it governs how we do different things in the city. And again, ours is 60 years old. It was drafted before the internet, before a lot of modern technology. And when we have language that is vague or ambiguous, it leads to confusion, inconsistency, and public trust. So that therefore there's a benefit to having an updated charter that promotes transparency, fairness, and trust in our government. And I want to say at this point, there is no determination of any violations of our charter. We think that there's misalignment. The language is not clear, and it is to our benefit to make sure the language is clear and we are on a clear stream forward. That is a good path for a good reason to revise language that is old. But again, there's been no violation found or determined. In our current language, I put it up for everybody to see, and I highlighted the provisions that caused the confusion. So when we went and looked at the language, we at the city attorney's office, we were confused by it. We did consult with an elections law expert who has been on contract with the city for a few years to answer and address election matters where we may have a conflict of interest or where we need an expertise. We consulted with that person. They had an opinion. We had others that had differing opinions. And therefore, we came to the conclusion that the language is vague and should be cleaned up. And again, as I talked about, in 1965, when the charter was adopted, it did not have term limits for council or mayor. And in 1972, it was amended by the voters, and it limited election officials to 2 terms as council member, 2 terms as mayor, and it had the language not to exceed 12 consecutive years. Just a reminder, at that time, the mayor terms were 2 years, council terms were 4 years. And then from 96 to 97, there was some special election, and that got us to the current version of our term language. And it tried to combine a number of issues, including term limits, resignations, combinations of service, and transition periods. And unfortunately, that's where I think we have the confusion that has come up. I think it is clear and consistent that historically, the charter has been interpreted that council members are limited to 2 terms, and then they need to take 4 years off before they run for council again. Mayor is 2 terms, and then they need to take 4 years off before they could run for mayor again. And that a person who has run 2 terms for council can run 2 terms for mayor before they have to take that break. And as you can see from the history, that is what has happened going all the way back to 1966. And you can see that many of our 2-term council members turned around and ran for 2 terms as mayor. And again, term limits were imposed in 1972, including our own current mayor, who is on your 2nd term as mayor. So again, how did we get here? The mayor expressed an interest in running for a council member after completing your 2 terms. We did a legal review of the language after inquiry was made, and we were concerned about the language. And again, as I've said, if anyone who's read in the online or listened to talk shows, there's a lot of opinions out there, a lot of opinions from attorneys, and they do not agree, which shows us that we have language that is unclear. So the goal now is to provide language that is clear and not confusing and lays out language that is consistent with the prior interpretations of the city and the history of how our mayors have been elected. And again, when you have ambiguity, we can have legal challenges and be in court. We may have inconsistent enforcement. mistrust, and it makes succession planning difficult. So this charter amendment we're going to discuss, if approved, will not change the term limits. It merely clarifies what consistent with the prior practice and prior interpretations. It aligns the language with our longstanding practice, and it strengthens transparency and fairness. So we'll go through the draft charter amendment. Some are just a little cleanup. Some places we've replaced councilmen with council members. Other places we haven't. So these are just little cleanup to make that consistent. And as you can see, nothing changes here. And this is in section 2.01 of the charter. And then when we get to section E, this is where we're proposing an amendment that would take out this language that cobbled a bunch of ideas together and separate them out into different sections to make it more clear. So we propose deleting the entirety of section E and replacing it as follows. And the first part is clarifying that no person shall be eligible to be elected to the office of council member for more than 2 consecutive terms. And that you can't hold office as a council member after you've served your 2 terms till you've sat out at least 4 years. And where it says except as provided in section 2.06C, that relates to filling of vacancies by council. And then the second part would be the same language for the mayor. The mayor can serve 2 terms, then needs to sit out at least 4 years before they're eligible to serve as mayor again. And then we go to section 3, that somebody could serve 2 terms as council member, 2 terms as mayor, and then after serving those 16 consecutive years of combined service, they would have to sit out for 4 years. And then because we do have staggered terms in Chandler, meaning some of you are up for election next year, some of you are not up for re-election for 2 more years. That creates a gap because the mayor position will be up for election in 2026. And then there are council members who may want to run in 2030. So we do have a gap time. So we address that in section number 4. For the person who served 2 years as council member, has a break in service because of the staggered terms, then they could run for 2 terms as mayor before they had to sit out for 4 years. And that is the clarification that was discussed quite extensively at the last meeting. And then finally, number 5, anyone with elected or appointed terms of less than 4 years, those partial terms are not counted in the above time limitations. And then again, the clarifying language, and then taking out language regarding incumbents from 1997 that's no longer relevant. That is the draft we propose, and what that does, it clarifies the language, as I've just stated before, as you can see in the chart, where it's clear somebody could do 2 terms council member, 2 terms mayor, sit out, or just 2 terms council member, sit out, then come back and run for council, or likewise with mayor. So we think this makes that language that we've added there makes it consistent with the practice, the prior interpretations, and I believe probably what was intended by the old language, but again, I don't think it's as clear as it could be. So if the council wants to refer this matter to the voters, tonight would be the night to call the election for this issue. We already have an election going in November, on November 4th. There would be time to prepare the publicity pamphlet. People can submit pro and con arguments for the publicity pamphlet. That publicity pamphlet gets mailed to the voters for education, and then it'll be a special election on November 4th, 2025. And as I recall, it's an all-mail ballot election. So there'll be drop-offs and there'll be more information on how to participate in that. And then if approved, the amendment takes effect upon the certification of the election results and approval by the governor. So in charter elections, we have to get approval by the governor. And I have never seen a governor not approve a charter amendment that was approved by the voters, so I don't think that will be a big hurdle. And I think with that, I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, City Attorney. And thank you for you and Ton and everyone else who spent a long weekend and a long week working on this, getting this ready for tonight.
Thank you, Mayor.
Council, any questions? Being none on my left, none on my right. Shall we go to speaker cards? I am going to call these in the order that they were given. All of the speaker cards, I haven't looked at all the comment cards, seem to result along this particular item, not the second. So with that, first up is Beth Brazel. And again, I want to encourage our audience, try to come up with something new to say. You have up to 3 minutes, but if you've got, otherwise you can just say, I agree with the comments by such and such. Please state your name and address. You have up to 3 minutes.
Okay, good evening, Mayor, council members, and city staff. My name is Beth Brazel, and I live at 6130 West Shannon Street. I have lived and voted and paid taxes here for the past 30 years. I am here this evening to ask you to vote yes on Resolution 5913, ordering and calling a special election for November 4th, 2025, for the submission of proposed amendments to the city charter clarifying term limits for council members and mayor. I believe it was made very clear at the last meeting on May 22nd that the members that were here wanted to have this clarified in order to avoid any more confusion, as well as to stop any more expensive litigation. Chandler has a long history of council members running for mayor. I and the majority of voters voted for Boyd Dunn, J. Tip Trainey, Kevin Harkey for mayor after serving 2 terms on city council. I personally believe it is very beneficial for our mayor to have had served on city council, to have that experience before being elected mayor. Chandler voters have overwhelmingly supported keeping term limits a total of 16 years, and this resolution keeps that intact. We already have a special bond election set for November 4th, so adding this to the ballot is being fiscally responsible. Waiting until 2026 is not giving the voters the opportunity to have the charter clarified as soon as possible. Again, I am asking the council to vote yes on 5913 and let the Chandler voters decide whether or not the current city charter should be amended. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brazel. I'm going to turn left and right. If no council member wants to say anything, I will move to the next. Raquel Armstrong. And let me also, let's let everyone speak. Thank you for not cheering or booing Beth. Let's keep up that practice through the rest of this evening and respect our speakers and allow them to say what they would say without comment, without cheering, or without booing. Raquel, state your name and address. You have 3 minutes.
Yes, good evening. Raquel Armstrong. I live at 222 West Boston Street. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. And thank you to the City Attorney's Office for this work. I believe that that presentation really answered my concerns and questions. And so I just wanted to state that so I don't take up more time.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Marcia Weiss. Marcia, state your name and address. You have up to 3 minutes. When the light turns green. There you go.
Mayor Harkey, city council members, and city staff, thank you for the time to talk to the group. I'm asking you to consider a no on 5913, and I'm just asking that if the city attorney, based on what your findings are, that we take time to look at the entire charter. If we've not done anything in violation, why are we in a rush to get this on the ballot? Why don't we just keep the ballot clean and give us time to properly vet and write this the way we need it to be? Because I see no end term. There's no set, but you can't go more than 16, or maybe we need to go longer. I'm not saying that, but I just would ask us to consider a thoughtful approach to this. I've not heard, we found a problem. What is our solution moving forward? I'm not hearing any of that, and I'm concerned because I don't want to see us go through this again with all the unintended consequences of litigation. So that's why I'm asking you to vote no, to take that pause, and to reconsider how we want to approach the entire charter as a city. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up, Ruth Jones. Please come, state your name and address for the record. You have up to 3 minutes.
Ruth Jones, 2734 East Birchwood Place, Chandler, Arizona, 85249. I keep trying to do that faster. I'm up here tonight asking you to vote no. The reason that the charter was changed and the reason that this was set up the way it was because the voters of this city already weighed in. There was another vote where they had an opportunity to increase the terms, and they said no to that. No one man or group should hold power for an extended period of time. That's how our government has always been comprised. And the city of Chandler made the necessary changes to be sure that not one person or group would have that power. To tell me that you have to have two terms as a council member before you have enough knowledge to be the mayor, it seems unfair to those of you who are on the council who are new. Are we saying that a one-term council member doesn't have the ability to be mayor? I'm saying to you tonight that passing this resolution is self-serving. It is allowing us to have 16 years and then possibly after 2 years, another 16 years. That is not how our government was ever meant to be. I sit here today and look at our city and what the voters have already weighed in on. The option to increase terms was put to the voters, and it was voted down. I'm asking you tonight to remember that. And I'm asking you to remember that each one of you is a servant to this city. This isn't your job per se. Most of you have jobs outside of this. This is your opportunity to serve Chandler. And there are many good people in this city who could make a difference for this city. But if one group or person holds power for 16 years, you take that away from our citizens. And I'm asking you to consider the citizens of this city when you make this choice tonight, not your own political futures or your own needs. There are plenty of people who have done 2 terms and taken a break. And we need to remember that none of us is that essential. We work together as a body for this city. And I'm asking you to remember that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Leslie Minkus. State your name and address. You have up to 3 minutes.
Les Minkus, 3372 East Gemini Court in Chandler. I believe that I would like to hear from each of the council members about why they're making the decision to make this vote. I'd like to hear what your point is. I use an analogy. I'm in a court and I'm saying to the judge, I know the speed limit was posted, but I don't think that I was speeding, even though I got a ticket. So I'd like you to dismiss the case. We've got a case here right now where we've got an illegal council and or mayor, and we're not doing anything about it now to take any steps to do anything about it. So I think that something should be done, and I'd like to know what the council members' thinking is as to why we're not doing anything right now in order to affect a more legal situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Rick Human. Do I need to give you the admonition?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council, staff, Rick Human, 4310 West Dublin Street, Chandler, Arizona. I want to thank the city attorney's office and staff for working on this to clean up this language. I've heard from a couple of speakers just now that this is illegal, all the kinds of things. The language was changed in 97, again in 2012. The language never was intended to limit anything other than going from council to mayor, or if you just want to become mayor, it'd be 8 years. So I do appreciate the work being done by staff cleaning up this language. I think this takes all the doubt out of what's, this legal, not legal. The intent of the last 50 years of council and mayor's races just cleans this up. So thank you.
Thank you. Next up, I'm not quite sure I can read the last name. Jan Lacano on Senate Circle. Sorry, Jan. Hi. Please state your name and address. You have up to 3 minutes to share your thoughts.
Hi there, I'm Lam McCore,
Oh.
and I live at 1069 East Senate Circle in Chandler. And I just wanted to thank the mayor and the whole council and the staff for spending time on this and making it clear. I just wanted to, I have nothing new to say. I just wanted to support what Beth Brizzle had said too. I think that we need to have clarity on the matter, and that way there's no back and forth and it's stated clearly in the charter.
Thank you, Lana, and I apologize for butchering your name so badly.
It's my handwriting, sorry. I was trying to rush it in. Thank you.
Next up, Martin Sepulveda.
Mayor, council, staff, good evening. 891 North Madrid Lane, Chandler, 85226. I'm here to support this measure. I've got a little bit of a background. That 1997 charter change I initiated. We did that from the dais. We put it out to the vote, to the voters, the next election, or the next election we could, and it was passed. Normally, as a citizen of this city, of this country, I like citizen input. Being a military guy, you don't always get that based on timing. But having said that, we have done this before. And at that point, with that charter change in term limits, it was merely to do one thing. It was to increase the mayoral term from two two-year terms to a max of 4 two-year terms. After I left the council, the subsequent council changed that to 2 consecutive 4-year terms for the mayor. We never contemplated not having a sitting council member, whether it was, well, in this case, it's 2 consecutive terms, 8 years, not being eligible. That was never contemplated. Quite frankly, you can look at the precedents, the history of this city, that was never an issue. So I could say, gosh, why the politics, why now? I don't care about any of that. What I care about is giving you my perspective, why it happened in 1997 to make this city better with a mayor who gets to do all sorts of things outside the council, represent the city for more than 4 years, okay? And there was never an intention in that discussion, that election, to limit the term limits of the, limit a council member for 2 4-year consecutive terms to not be able to run for mayor. And the last thing I would say, yeah, it is the Constitution of this city. I get it. Our United States Constitution. It doesn't have an answer for anything that could possibly happen. So from time to time, we do go out and make these clarifications, and we should have that citizen input, and we have it here. My personal belief is it should go forward. It should pass. I don't believe anything illegal has happened here. I think we have to keep it on that level. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sepulveda.
Mayor,
Councilmember Harris.
Honorable
Mr.
Martin
Sepulveda.
Sepulveda.
Councilmember, got a
Come on
question
back.
for
Come
you.
on back up. No, I think this is important because I had asked the previous Vice Mayor and Councilmember Rick Human, what was the time period in which you served, and if you can just kind of give more of the thought process of why that change was needed to happen. You said you initiated, but what was it that you guys were discussing at that point in history to want to bring this forward, and to essentially the council members deciding to say yes to bring it to the voters to allow them to decide?
Good question. Thank you, Councilman Harris. So I served from 96 to 2000. I had to take a little trip and I had a replacement while I was gone, your mayor. And I think that worked fine. In fact, there's probably another charter amendment based on the vacancy, right? But the context of that is this. Chandler wasn't more than maybe 150,000 at that time, okay? We were growing. East Valley Partnership and the stuff that was done in East Valley was very important, and we needed a voice. Council members are great on these commissions, these boards, commissions outside the city. But guess what? These organizations want to hear from the mayor. If you have a mayor that's only in office for, at that time, a max of 4 years, you don't really have that ability, like some, Tempe, I don't think has term limits. Phoenix has got 8 years, whatever. You don't have the ability as a mayor to have the same standing in these committees to really make those decisions for your city as the other cities and towns do, with mayoral terms being longer. In that case, it was her funding, highway money. That's very important. That's our lifeblood, right? A lot of stuff we did in the Price Road Corridor, this expansion you see today, that happened probably 40 or 50 years ago, but it came to fruition because these monies that were allocated because the East Valley mayors fought for it. And we just would not have had that if we just had a mayor that had been in office for 4 years, because it wouldn't have risen through the ranks of these organizations. So the last part of your question is, I had 2 non-consecutive terms. Quite frankly, I was through after my first term. But my second term, gosh, I can't remember what the hell it was. I took 4 years off, okay? So trivia question. 2004, there you go. Yeah. So, so I just thought at that point, as did the council, and it was a unanimous agreement. It was 5-2, and I won't tell you who the 2 dissenters were, but it did go through this body, the dais. There was citizen input. It was voted on. It was passed. And to a point that was made earlier, yeah, there's been other attempts to increase the term limits. Guess what? The citizens have turned them down. So I think I appreciate the clarification. I think we're on solid ground to move forward. There's nothing that's going to preclude me or any other citizen in this community from giving you our opinion or advice, whatever you want to take. I think we should continue to do that.
So, Mayor, just one last thing. So, just for clarification, the idea was that there was stability in someone moving from council member into the mayoral role and allowing their terms to be set for 2 terms being up to 8 years because of the stability and what was going on in the region during that time. So it was important to have a mayor who can serve potentially 8 years versus 4 years total.
Yeah, so very candidly, there wasn't the stability component you talked about. It wasn't a nexus between, hey, this person's in the council for 8 years, now you can serve 8 years as mayor. The latter is true, but just pertained to the mayor, because we didn't touch the council terms. That was left as it was. We simply said the mayor can serve up to 4 2-year terms. It was just 2 2-year terms, for the very reason of stability and to have, the presence we needed in these regional organizations and even the national organizations. It takes you all that, to kind of fleet up to whatever level of leadership you want for the League of Cities and Towns nationally, state, whatever the case may be. So it allowed us that opportunity. And I would tell you, I still think it was the right thing to do.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Hawkins.
Hi, thank you for being here. I do have one follow-up question. Just for sharing some information and background on that piece of it where you said that, and I understand where you're coming from as far as that there's value to have that there for that length of time to build those relationships. But can you tell me at what point, where were the citizens' engagement? Like what part did it play in that? Was that before that? Was that after you guys decided that that's what you wanted and the direction to go, or where?
Well, since I initiated on the diocese, I had a lot of people calling me names I hadn't heard of in a long time. But the bottom line is the input was there. And to answer your question, the voters voted on it. So we had a lot of time, and I don't know what the months were between the time we had that discussion at the dais and it went to the voters. But there was input. I can guarantee you I still get grief about that from certain people. But again, ultimately, you're elected to make decisions. As you probably know by now, they're not always easy decisions, but you got to make them. Some people may be happy, some people aren't going to be so happy. But when it's all said and done, when you refer something, and I'm not trying to give a one-on-one class here, when you refer something that's been discussed publicly and in print and whatever medium you have, the input is there. The ability to have input is there. And ultimately, if the voters decide to pass it, then they speak. If it ends up to be something terrible, they'll ask to have it referred again. But the clarity, I think that's what's really important. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Until this came up, no one ever thought there was an issue with being disqualified because you're on the council for 2 terms. Never crossed someone's mind that I'm aware of.
Right.
So if clarity is what we need, then I think we have it, and I think it's good to be referred.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
Thank you, sir. Our next person is Sherry Johnson. Sherry, please state your name and address. You have up to 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Sherry Johnson. I live at 3627 East Agave Road, and I'm a community leader for Legislative District 12, which includes Chandler. I spoke at the last meeting, so I'm not going to reiterate all of the reasons that I support Resolution 5913, except to say that I really appreciate you guys taking just a little bit longer to consider the proposed language for this particular section of the charter. I read the exhibit, and I think that the proposed language honors the original intent of consecutive terms, the wishes of Chandler voters for term limits, and also previous precedent. It's important to have this portion clarified now on the November 2025 ballot rather than later, because as written, the language is already being called into question. It's ambiguous and opens the city up to potential litigation. It must be cleared up in November 2025 to ensure the fair and transparent election in 2026. For these reasons, I respectfully urge the council members to support this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Stephen Van Kloppenburg. Stephen. Please state your name and address. You have up to 3 minutes to share your thoughts.
Will do. Stephen Van Kloppenburg, 4375 South Melody. Longtime Chandler resident. Proud to be here. Thanks for having me. Internet doesn't really change words, but I understand it may add additional, opinions on things. So it's not a bad idea to, if city council figures and legal figures there's some ambiguity, let's clear it up. So for that reason, I'm going to say let's go ahead and, vote yes on this one. I wonder why now, but it's never too late, to clarify something. I don't think that the prior language had any intent for nefarious or illegal activity. Yeah, so I agree with former council Rick H, and I would say yes to the resolution.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. H. Next up, Councilmember Hawkins.
I have a quick question. City manager, I know you have provided some input previously as far as the list of proposed amendment changes that we're looking at so far. Can you give me an idea on quantity so far, just at that quick first look?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor and Councilmember Hawkins, there's a number throughout the code, throughout the charter, excuse me, that we've looked at in the past from a staff perspective. It depends on how far you want to go. If it's merely kind of technical cleanup or just sort of adjusting language to reflect modern terminology, the list could be quite a bit longer. In terms of substantive items, there could be maybe half a dozen in there. Some of them we've talked about with council in previous work sessions related to the number of readings of ordinances that are required, which Chandler does somewhat differently than the rest of the valley. Residency requirements is the other one that council's discussed in recent months. So there's some that are, I would say, more substantive and a policy decision for the council and then ultimately for the voters, versus more of just cleanup of things that are inconsistent between our charter and, say, the way that modern business takes place or the way that state law prescribes we should consider, even though we retain some control over that.
Thank you.
All right. Our next speaker is Michelle, who lives at 1710 East Redwood. Oh, okay. Hi. Sorry, Michelle. Couldn't catch your last name there. Please state your name and address. You have up to 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Michelle Daly. I live at 1710 East Redwood Place. I was here that previous meeting and I was really concerned by all the confusion. That was a rough meeting. And I just want to say I'm really proud to see all these improvements. Thank you to staff and all of your hard work. I just feel like this has been a very prompt and professional response. I support bringing this forward to the voters. I feel this maintains the intent that has served us well. We never foresaw these legal challenges prior to this year from any candidates, their opponents, any city attorneys, or even the voters through all those many elections. So I do support sending this to the voters to prevent this current interpretation that it conflicts with the intent from affecting any upcoming mayor or council races. Thank you.
And I'm a bit embarrassed when 2 of my friends are in the audience and I can't read their names. So sorry about that. Council, there's also 7 or 8 comment cards. Would you like me to read these or just enter them into the records? You have a preference? What's that?
Enter into the record, sir.
I've got a couple reads. We'll go ahead and read. All right, first is Susan Ellsworth from 3225 South Diamond Drive in Chandler. I'm going to try to do my best to read. In situations where a city charter is, I'm sorry, I can't read that word, but the justification is a past practice, the city charter would generally prevail. Past practice is a legal doctrine that can sometimes influence the interpretation and application of contracts, but it cannot supersede the fundamental law of the city charter. Thank you, Susan. Next, Phil Ellsworth. Why change something that is not ambiguous, as the mayor and council want us to believe, and third-party legal review has noted as clear and unambiguous, as well as too much collusion? Erica Franks, here to support Resolution 5913. Sharon Ward, here to support 5913. Dwayne Lidman, support. Cameron Batista, these changes will protect our city from costly litigation and allow the voters to decide on the changes passed to protect 50 years of precedent. Yvette Garcia, support. Teresa Torpes, support. Council, that's all of the cards that have been for speaker cards and reader cards. How would you like to proceed?
Mayor,
Councilmember Harris.
just want to make some comments before we proceed. One, thank you to the city attorney's office and their team for working to get the language cleared up. I was glad to get when Councilmember Orlando felt more that it needed more work. His leadership was like, hey, let me take hands off and let's put more work into it. And I'm glad that each council member also did the steady work to reach out to the city attorney to make sure there was language. She was ready and available and got back with us as soon as possible. I also was able to get feedback from my constituents out there in the community, and they were also able to weigh in. I think Martin Sepulveda said it best. You know, when we are weighing in on issues today, it gives everyone a free opportunity to weigh in, and sometimes that process does not always need to be formalized through a committee to say I was on a committee, but that process is just simply reaching out to us and making sure that they know. And I've had a lot of great feedback from the community. I did submit comments or feedback to the city attorney's office. They were thoughtful in that approach. And I do definitely feel that this is what the document is, a living document, is going to forever change. And we have to be, as leaders here, we have to know that it's going to change. We have to know that it's not going to be perfect. But this document does allow accountability. Some areas where we need more transparency there, and the other areas where we need to really ramp up and make sure that it's clear. So I am going to favor this resolution with my support because I do think that our qualified team has looked over this multiple times. They've gotten back with us. I've taken into consideration, we've been dealing with this for 3 weeks now. So if someone did not weigh in on it, that's their own reasoning for not weighing in. But I know that council members, we are been active. My phone has been blowing up. And I am glad to move forward on this area and send it back out to the voters so we can know exactly what they want to do, if they want this language to remain unclear or if they would like the language to be clear. And that's kind of where I'm going to leave it at the voters. I don't feel like I should be the one standing in the way of saying yes or no, what you want for your community or not. My job is to manage it and put it out there when I'm unsure. So thank you so much for your time. Thanks, Mayor.
Additional comments before we make a motion? Anybody else? Councilmember Encinas.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, I want to thank you guys all so much for being here tonight on a Monday on a special meeting and providing your input with us here again. Since our last council meeting, I have spoken to numerous residents, phone calls, text messages, emails as well regarding this charter amendment. To be quite frank, there are people who support it and there are people who do not support it. And for me, this charter amendment isn't making a change to what the voters have always wanted these past decades. This amendment is upholding the historical precedents of our city and our voters, council after council, mayor after mayor. And to answer a resident's question here on our thought process, my personal thought process, I cannot sit up here on your dais and wait while our charter is being questioned, wait while my mayor's eligibility is being challenged. That is not who we are, and that is not Chandler. But what I can do is sit here and do what our residents have always asked of us as policymakers here in Chandler, and that is to demonstrate sound, mature leadership. This resolution is solidifying our past practices, and I give the most confidence to our residents to uphold that decision or not. So again, I thank you guys all so much for being here tonight, being here with us. I want to thank our city staff again and our legal team for getting this all clarified for us. So thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that. To all of you who are here this evening, may I say thank you for coming again. Last Thursday, when we had the last meeting, I was online traveling at a Women in Government leadership that I was in. It demands that we as leaders, when the time is right and there is something to do, that we find in ourselves not only the opportunity to make it right, but also the opportunity to do it in the right way. We as a council finally had sat down this evening before we came in here and had an opportunity to review what you just saw. Had we had the opportunity to do the same thing prior to this meeting this evening, we would have a whole different outcome. But somehow, somewhere, some information had gotten into the news that were not unclear to our voters. And that in itself had created the confusion that we now, as leaders, feel that we have to right the wrong. So tonight, I say thank you to all of you who have called, who have come here and spoke, whether you were for it or against it. That's not the point tonight. I will also ask those of us who have been given the opportunity to serve the people of Chandler to make sure that we learn something from this situation that just happened to us here. Never before in my 39 years of living in the city have I seen something like that just happen here before. Yes, there have been a lot of issues in this city. And you all know that I myself always said it and very clear about it. In Chandler, we do not wash our dirty laundry in the street. And I believe that's where we lacked into this. That's where we lost the mark into this position right now that we are in. Tonight, I stand before you as I sit here to say that, yes, we are going to move forward with this resolution. We are going to put it on the ballot because the people of Chandler are saying that there is a way for us to make a right, something that is wrong, right. But again, let us remind ourselves that we are elected to serve the people of Chandler, not ourselves. Thank you, Mayor.
I guess I'll also make some comments. I want to thank Mr. Sepulveda for really bringing a historical perspective, and I'm grateful that previous mayors like Boyd Dunn and Jay Tibshraeny had the opportunity to represent Chandler at a regional role in terms of leading Maricopa Association of Governments, as well as Arizona League of Cities. And Mayor Dunn ended up suing the state multiple times on behalf of cities in Chandler in order to secure some funds that were being threatened. And Mayor Tibshraeny served us well. I've recently had the chance to streamline MAG and eliminate a number of committees, make it much more efficient. Some staff have been let go as we've just repurposed the organization to get the 20-year transportation plan out while I've been chairing that. And in my role as the president of League of Cities, I am taking on a number of legislator spots. And Mr. Sepulveda, you're right. It takes 6 years to get in these leadership positions in which Chandler's voice and Chandler's leaders have the opportunity to not just represent Chandler at this days, but across the state, because of other cities that have no term limits normally occupy these positions. But it really is just a timing issue that it's literally impossible to run into leadership with shorter terms. So I do want to thank you. And I want to thank staff, city manager, city attorney. This is a wonderful meeting tonight. I thank you for bringing clarity, city attorney, for just really setting the stage. I know that you and your staff and city manager staff have been working hard to help clarify and really clear up the confusion that we exuded last week. And if any offense was taken, I own my responsibility for not speaking up to clarify that at that time. So please accept any offense, or please forgive any offense that you might have taken on my part of the same. So thank you. Any other comments? All right, a motion would be in order.
Mayor,
Councilmember Encinas.
I move City Council to pass and adopt resolution number 5913, ordering and calling a special election for November 4, 2025 for the submission of proposed amendments to the city charter, including language from Councilmember Hawkins that reads, am I going to read the entire language there? Okay. Council members who resign for any reason other than to run for mayor as required under state law and this charter, and mayors who resign shall not be eligible for re-election or appointment until the second succeeding city election following the date of tender of their written resignation, except as provided in subsection 2.06C.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
I don't know if I heard Council, I heard Vice Mayor. So Vice Mayor, we have a motion and a second. Council, please vote.
They were not working earlier.
Motion carries by majority. Councilmember Hawkins dissenting.
Okay, thank you. Our next item is item number 2, introduction and tentative adoption of ordinance number 5132.
Mayor, if I can interject for a moment,
Please.
can I make sure that motion was clear that to make any conforming changes needed to the resolution to send it to the ballot in November? If the maker and the second agree that that is included in the motion?
Yes, with directions to staff to make all conforming changes necessary before transmitting the resolution to Maricopa County for placement on the November 4th, 2025 ballot.
Thank you, sir.
And the second remain.
Do we need to do anything else? We seem good. Thank you for the clarification. Item number 2 is introduction and tentative adoption of ordinance number 5132, forming a city charter amendment resident advisory committee. And Council, I'm the one bringing this forth. It's several of you have made comments that a thorough charter review would be in order. My proposal is to form a 9-member committee. That this would be the presentation and first vote if council so choose. We would then do a second reading on what would be next Thursday. Is that June 12th? And at that time, we would also be voting on members. According to our procedure, the process is a council member to bring this forth, have up to 7 days for council to be able to look at the names and then vote on them and approve them. I believe that this will give us an opportunity in conjunction with this to do a deeper dive in whether it's the cleanup language that city manager address Councilmember Hawkins' language, as well as I want to challenge all of council members to not just rely on staff to come up with thoughts, but for each of us, make sure copies are available to our community. Once we start having these meetings, these will be posted, citizens will be invited, and the charter, the Citizen Charter Review Committee will have opportunity to engage with this. I anticipate the amount of time to be less than 1 year for them to finish their work, and then at an appropriate time following to then put the findings of the Citizen Charter Review Committee to come to us and then on a ballot sometime next year.
Is that a motion?
I'm just explaining what it is before a motion is made. Councilmember Harris.
Mayor, yeah, thank you. I do support what you're doing here. I think this is a great opportunity. You mentioned it before in the last meeting that it may be important for us to pull together a group of great of our residents to come together to look at the charter. This is a changing document. I know Councilmember Hawkins wanted to see something like this go forth because it's important for us to have a steady look at it. I definitely support where we're starting with this process. And I think that if, again, I love the fact that it's going to be open to the community. If your name is not selected to be a part of this process, it's going to be open meetings for everyone to come to and still be able to speak and things of that nature. And I do love the fact that, and even while we're in that process, Mayor, the residents, if you're not a part of the committee, you still have the opportunity to get involved. And I will look forward to the our staff to make sure that they can have something to fill out while we're in that process. If they see amendments, and maybe we need to create a link. If they see things that they want to suggest or bring forward, I think this would be a great opportunity for everyone to get involved. Residents shouldn't feel excluded because they're not a part of the immediate team, but they should feel very much included, that they can still be a part, whether it's talking to us directly or filling out some type of survey or some type of website link that we can direct people to include their input. But this is everybody's document. I live here, my children live here, and I'm glad that you brought this forward, Mayor. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember. Seeing no additional comments, a motion?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Lee.
Again, thank you for bringing this forward. I think it's important that this document's 60-something years old. And every time we go through it, we find something that needs to be updated. So, and I think the citizens do a great job on this. With that, I move to introduce and tentative adopted ordinance number 5132, forming a city charter amendment resident advisory committee.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Poston. No additional comments. Council, please vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right. City Clerk, did we have any public comment cards for tonight? In this particular time at the end?
I have no public comment cards.
Okay, that are removed from the two items. Okay, Council, that adjourns our meeting. We'll be back here Monday with a regular meeting on June 9th of our Chandler City Council.